Welcome back, America. I'm Hugh Hewitt. Mary Katharine Ham, of course, is a Fox News contributor. She is the co-host of Getting Hammered, which is back. There's a new edition of it. I listened to it today, and it made me sad because Mary Katharine has her arms around the left-wing violence problem. Mary Katharine, I want to go right to the heart of it. I want everyone to go listen to Getting Hammered. I didn't know you'd done it. Vic told me yesterday. And I want to begin by running down the list of left-wing and right-wing violence, plus the mentally deranged violence, and then have you talk about it. On the left-wing side, I've got today's shooting in Dallas, because the evidence seems pretty dispositive that a left-winger killed one migrant, maybe two, trying to kill ICE agents. We've got the assassination of Charlie. We got the bombing of the Fox News van on September 12th. We had another ICE attack. Actually, we had three other ICE shootings at ICE facilities in July and August. We had the shooting of an ABC affiliate after Kimmel was canceled last week.
Right.
Add in the two attacks on Donald Trump, one of which killed Corey Compatore, the murder of Brian Thompson, the healthcare CEO, December of 2024, attempt to kill Justice Kavanaugh in 2022, the attempted massacre of the GOP caucus on the baseball field in 2017, the murderous attack on the Catholic kids in Minnesota on August 25, the murder of the Christian kids at school in Nashville in 2023. There are some school shootings I don't include if it's a schizophrenic, crazy person, though they're terrible.
Yep.
On right-wing violence, I include January 6th, obviously. I include the plot to kidnap Gretchen Whitmer. I include the murder by a neo-Nazi of Heather Heyer, though neo-Nazis are not welcome in the Republican Party, and the murder at Mother Emanuel Church of 9 in 2015. Everything else goes into either crazy people or Islamist violence. So with that on the table, did I miss anything?
I mean, yeah, we could do very full surveys, but the thing that's aggravating about all of this is that the surveys that the media does end up being corrupt in and of themselves, right? Like the data is all wrong. And people can, for instance, with Melissa Hortman, right? There are situations where a political figure is killed or shot at because the person had other than political reasons. Jared Loughner shooting Gabby Giffords is a perfect example because he was schizophrenic and had issues with grammar and an obsession with her. Hinckley is another one, his obsession with Jodie Foster. Melissa Hortman in Minnesota, the guy Vance Bolter, clearly mentally ill and thought Tim Walz was telling him what to do, right? We can just concede that some of these are not political per se, even though they're perpetrated on political people. Charlie's assassination is not that, and they want to make it that. In fact, I listened to Jimmy Kimmel's entire monologue, during which he, of course, is a free speech martyr, and I actually agree that Brendan Carr did the wrong thing in that situation.
Oh, we disagree. We'll come back to that.
Right. What he never concedes is that Charlie's form of speech that he was engaging in was special and protected and important to our democracy, and that his murder was motivated by someone who wanted him to shut up forever, and it was successful, right? He can't give us that. He can't give us
Why do you think? I have a theory as to that. Do you have a theory as to why Kimmel can't give any ground? I do. He'll lose his audience. He can't display actual sympathy for the victim, Charlie, or his family. He can't do it or his audience will desert him.
You think so? I think, look, I think he tried to show some sympathy, but he wanted to categorize it as random violence. He was like, it's just senseless violence and it was wrong that it happened. It's not random violence. These acts are not random violence, and they're obvious what they are. And I also want to point out that without doing the whole list of events, by the way, we've been told since Charlie Kirk's brutal murder that we are the foreboding right, and that we're coming after, our retaliation will be so dark and terrible. And every single arrestable offense since then that is ostensibly related to the murder of Charlie Kirk has been left on right. It has been left on right. So I can at least inoculate myself from being part of that movement, right? Another thing you can do without going through the list at all, and Michael Moynihan has pointed this out, I think quite elegantly, is that off the top of our heads, Hugh, we could think of 5 convicted, unrepentant domestic terrorists and murderers who are elevated inside an institution that is only the left's, and it is colleges, and they are professors, and they teach children, and they do not need to repent for killing Brink's truck drivers or trying to bomb the Pentagon. None of that is important.
Angela Davis. Yeah.
Totally fine.
So the question is, I've heard
Bill
Senator
Ayers.
Cotton say, more. Senator Cotton has said on this show and in other forums, this is not a both sides thing. This is a left-wing problem. And the more often we say it's a both side thing, because there have been January 6th and the Michigan plot, and there were some crazy people who rioted in the Capitol, we obscure the fact that the radical left's ideology embraces and encourages violence. That's the key. And I think we got to talk about that. Do you agree with that? That the radical left's ideology...
They embrace, valorize, and reward institutionally violence in a way that our side does not. So, I mean, and the colleges, again, the college professors are this perfect example of this, where Barack Obama did pal around with Bill Ayers, who was part of this group that tried to bomb ROTC guys and the Pentagon, and everyone thought it was offensive to Barack Obama for you to bring this up. It was A-okay for him to not have a moral issue with this.
Now, Mary Catherine, I bring up Saul Alinsky occasionally because I'm old enough to remember when the rules for radicals were a thing. And Obama was steeped in that. President Obama believed in it. Secretary Clinton believed in it. But we don't talk about that anymore. The right wing has never, ever accepted the neo-Nazis or the Birchers. Buckley drove them out in the 50s, and they haven't been back since. We don't want the racists. We don't want the violent anti-abortion people. We don't want them. The left doesn't do that. Who should do that? Mamdani, AOC, Jasmine Crockett? Who should be saying this?
I mean, any and all of them, but I think the issue is that violent revolution is part of the romanticized view of these people about what makes them special and what makes their cause unique. And like, sure, maybe Mamdani is not actively encouraging it at the moment. Like, I'm sure you can go back to 2020 and find all sorts of valorization of violence. But these are the folks who believe that violent revolution is necessary to create a more perfect union. We're kind of like, the one revolution was good, and we like what we got out of it.
I'm going to talk with Mary Catherine a little bit off air, and then we'll attach it, put it over at YouTube. Don't go anywhere, America. I'm Hugh. I'm back with Mary Catherine. Mary Catherine, this segment is a short one, as will be the next one, but they're both kind of guessing. Turning Point UCA suffers a staggering blow. Erica touches the hearts of anyone who isn't stone-hearted. If you weren't touched by that, you got to check yourself in somewhere, because that was amazing. Marco Rubio gave a testimony as effective and as efficient as any pastor or priest I've ever heard. It was a wonderful day of worship and mourning and remembrance, and yet the mainstream media doesn't have the language to deal with religious belief, especially Christians who believe in the objective truth of the death, resurrection, ascension, and eventual return of Christ. Do you expect they'll ever develop that language? They used to have that muscle. They've lost that muscle.
Again, there's the bubble. This is another related problem for why lefty politicians have trouble reaching people outside of New York City. A couple people confessed it, and I think earnestly said, like, I have no connection to what these people are doing. Thomas Chatterton Williams was one of them. There was another guy who said, hey, this is totally alien to me, all of the signs and the structure and the language and the music. And I'm sure the feeling is symmetrical, like that these people don't know what my life is like. And I was like, no. An important fact to know about American life is it's not symmetrical. The right is steeped in your culture. The right is subjected to your culture on a regular basis, Jimmy Kimmel being one of the avenues for which we are steeped in their ideology and culture and are very familiar with all of its signals and culture and its music and whatever, right? And their bubble is not our bubble, but they assume it is.
But it's their choice. What I want to underscore, they could fix this if they want. It's not that hard to find practicing Catholics. I'm over here. Practicing evangelicals. Mary Catherine's over there. There's some of us who do both, and there are a lot of people like Guy Benson, who I'm not quite sure which church he fits into, but there are lots of us. Do you think that the legacy platforms will ever actively engage in trying to reconnect with that part of America, or do they think they're lost fools?
I think they're lost fools. I think they have been steeped in education that teaches them that. I think it is not a value proposition or anything that's going to get them clicks to be good faith about people of faith. And I don't see this changing anytime soon. Often the religion reporters at major outlets are the most hostile people in the
Yeah.
newsroom to people of religion. And I'm not sure how you're going to change that quickly or get anyone who understands. I mean, you find like people who write about these discussions on evangelical circles or in Catholic circles are so knowledgeable, so much more knowledgeable than the average religion reporter at a major outlet, right? I listen to those
Right.
folks about those internal divisions and those debates because they are intelligent and they are interesting and they're engaged in by very smart people of faith. They don't think there are smart people of faith.
That's it. They think we're snake handling, gap toothed people who came out of the woods. When in fact, I think we have the logical, apologetic, and indeed the only answer. I'll be right back with Mary Katharine. We're going to finish where I began today, talking about religion. Welcome back, America. I'm Hugh Hewitt. If you caught the opening of my show today, I said something like, when everything seems to be going to hell, you ought to go to church. Now, a lot of you folks out there haven't been to church in years, if ever, but you may have watched Charlie's service and been touched by it, and you may be thinking about going somewhere. I thought I would ask Mary Katharine, since she's a different generation than me, how might someone pick where to go to church if they're feeling after Charlie's service or just because of the panic about the culture at large that they need to find a place to find out about God?
Yeah, look, this is actually tricky. First of all, I think you should pray about it, because you might be presented with an option. If you have good friends who you trust, who you would be willing to go to church with, I'm always willing to extend an invitation. By the way, also to reporters or people in media, which I have done on occasion in the past, somewhat in jest, but actually in earnest on X, where I say, I'm glad to be your guide to an SEC tailgate or a church service or a Wednesday night potluck or a gun show. I will take you. And so find somebody you trust
translate for you.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I actually think you'd have fun and you would learn something. But I think find somebody you trust, who you can have these conversations with and whose recommendation you might like, and then try a church. And also, a lot of churches will say, like, try us for 3 weeks and see what happens, right? Put in a little bit of time at one place. If it's not working for you, you can search for something else, but pray about it and ask a trusted friend or two.
Now, do you think, because I do, that there will be a bulge in attendance this Sunday and the next Sunday, and ought pastors, priests, ministers of word and sacrament prepare for that, and perhaps suspend the usual September? September is when you ask people to pledge for the coming year. Usually it's September, sometimes it's October. What do you think about the next couple of weeks?
Yeah, so I think pastors should be aware of this and be prepared for it. One of the things that I saw, one of the liberal critiques of this Charlie Kirk service was, he was like, is that normal with them asking someone to accept Christ in the service? It was an altar call in the very beginning. And then he offered a QR code, and he said, hit the QR code for a Bible and for a connection to other seasoned Christians, right? This is normal for an altar call because they want to put you in touch with someone who can shepherd you, so someone can pray for you through this process and you're not just like left abandoned. So pastors, remember that, like, you're the QR code in real life, right? That was what that was a substitute for. You are being given an opportunity to bring people into the church. And also, I would be careful about when asking to pledge money or get into tithing, that your messaging should be delicate on that for brand new people to a brand new church.
Because I do think there are going to be people who say everything's going to hell, so I better go to church, and they might call friends, family, or they just might go to the phone book or Google. There are no phone books. That was a tell. Go to Google and put your town in and get 4 or 5 different things and say, go out there. Mary Katharine Ham, glad that Getting Hammered is back. May it be more and more frequent. Thank you so much for joining me. Follow her on X at MK Hammer.